we'll get
Sure.
right to it.
Have at
My
it.
name is David McCartney, and I'm representing Vogel Library at the Wartburg College Archives of Iowa Broadcasting. And this afternoon, I'm speaking with Kenneth Sullivan. Well, we'll begin right off with a very, very big common thread that we have. We were both born and raised in Charles City.
Yeah.
You are ahead of me a few years, but we have some...
From 58 to whatever.
Uh-huh. Now, I was born in 1956. You were born in 1940.
40.
And that was a pretty expansive decade for Charles City at the time. That was really the last decade that
It really was.
It
went downhill.
During the war and post-war period.
Tornado hurt significantly there.
In 1968.
No rebound.
Yeah, it really was a significant change. The town, as you may remember growing up, I am curious to know what your recollections are of that time, but also begin talking about your family. Did you have siblings?
I had 4 siblings actually. My dad drowned in June, I believe, of 1947. I was not 7 years old at the time. Two of my sisters, the youngest and oldest, both lived in Charles City. Phyllis Scholes was the oldest in the family. The youngest was Virginia Johnson Motor Company. Sister lived in, she married during World War II and basically lived near whatever base her husband was serving at during his career in the Navy and later Air Force. And my brother was in World War II, shot down in the Asia, South China Sea or something like that, got the Distinguished Flying Cross, and was missing in action for a period of time and came home having been rescued by Filipino fishermen. And so, but he came back to Charles City in post-war, enrolled at the U of I, and then left basically when he got out of school in the 50, I believe. And so that was my family. They were all much older than me. 11 years was the closest. And Charles City was, as you say, well, it's kind of a storybook community back in that period. I mean, there was not a whole lot of excitement or diversity, or it was just a nice place to grow up. I wish more kids now had that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a bit, if you can, about growing up. What grade school did you go to? Things that you did with?
Well, I went to Lincoln. We lived on East Clark, and when my dad drowned in 47, there was no opportunity really for my mother. I think that was a totally different period as far as benefits. So she bought a little place on Freeman Street, and it was destroyed in the tornado. But she was obliged to work wherever she could. I think I got my first paper out with the press. I was about 9, I believe, and it was on the west side of town, quote unquote the rich district. One of the Salisbury families and KCHA family, Chuck Ellis. He had the story was it was a trained military attack dog, a German Shepherd. Nobody wanted to challenge it, so I'd deliver the papers and stay a long ways away. But it was a good town. I enjoyed it. From Lincoln School, when my dad was just alive, to McKinley on the west side, which no longer exists, obviously, because of the tornado, and then junior high and high school. And that's, at that point, I thought that's as high as I ever could aspire to.
What did your mother do during that time for a lot?
Anything she could do to earn a buck. She was on Social Security wasn't real. It wasn't then what it is now, public benefits. I think my recollection is that the largest check she ever got to support the two of us during the 11 years I was home was about $120 a month.
Which even adjusted for inflation today is not very
well,
much.
And she worked at Schofield's, washing dishes, Eddie Schofield's place. She checked coats at the Legion Hall or whatever it was on Court Street. I don't remember if VFW or Legion. She'd take in ironings and anything, but she was constrained by federal bureaucracy. If she earned too much money, she lost benefits. That was one of the well-enforced rules back in the 50s, 40s, and 50s. So that's the way I mean, we didn't have anything, and I'm not really sure I missed a whole lot. I mean, I got whatever education. I had good friends in school, and it was just a nice place to be.
How about friends? Did you have playmates? Did you have pastimes as a kid? Or
No, not really. We had neighbors that generally our age, but we did what kids did back then, threw dirt clods at one another and played kick the can. And I had cousins off North Main, South Main, and I'd go over there once in a while. But no, it was just a. I really don't have a whole lot of memories of what I did growing up. I just did what everybody did. You were outside at dark, and we'd chase the ice truck down and make sure we got a chip of ice when he showed up. And I would, when I was delivering the register, the distribution point was just on the south side of the bridge behind, it's almost on the riverbank. There was an office under, I think there was a appliance store above it, and the office was under there, and Howard Yost was our circulation person. And I'd go over there, and when I got done, go back there, and I don't remember the guy's name, but he was the distributor for an ice cream wagon. He seemed to be always looking for some kid to help him load his truck for a couple of ice cream bars or something like that, and I never turned those down. So that was growing up, and that when I went into junior high, then I decided I needed to expand myself, so my mother rented a very old trumpet for me from Van Rees, and I don't remember I think it was before Malin Collins, but I took lessons and stayed with the band until my junior year, quit after then because I wanted to play football.
Just quickly to interject, Van Rees Music was a music store on the main street, just so our listeners know. In high school, did you continue with your music?
I played until I was, as I say, I think it was after my junior year. I just, it was after my sophomore year because I suited up for the varsity team for junior and senior years, and I really couldn't do both, obviously. And there were never a shortage of band people.
Your class was 1958, I believe, and might have been among the last of the classes to move through the North Grand, what later became the junior high school.
Not quite. When I was at KCHA, I can't remember the principal, but they were in the midst of a bond issue when I left Charles City in '60, and Harry Eastman was the superintendent then, and they were. So it was. I don't know whether '60 was the last class or what. It took him a year or so to get it done, but I was among the last 2 or 3 classes in the old school, and loved it dearly, and I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I always thought that was a great place.
I understand it's being repurposed for housing now.
I hope it's not torn down. It's just structurally, well, that's good.
The city has been adamant about preserving at least the
I
exterior.
understand a few citizens have been adamant about it,
Yes.
too, which is a fine thing.
Yes. Well, in your high school time, what other were there other activities you did, or were you preoccupied with work?
No, I played football. I was on the football team. Never good because I didn't apply myself as hard as I should have. I wish I had, because Truman Manship was our coach and also the baseball coach. He said none of his football players could go out for baseball. They were supposed to go out for track, their spring sport, because he wanted them exercising. So I went out for baseball in my senior year, and I didn't miss anything. But I did that. I did the band. I was in very little other than that. I just continued my paper routes during school years.
You mentioned Truman Manship, and he was a family friend of ours.
He was a neighbor
for many years.
He was a neighbor.
A neighbor of yours.
Well, yours, have your grandparents,
yes,
I
in
think.
town, right. And in later years, they moved to the north.
Yeah.
And, any recollections of Coach Manship?
Well, yeah, yes and no, I guess. I knew Larry, and I don't remember the other son's name. But Truman was a World War II vet. I think he was seriously wounded, and I think he may have been a POW at one point. No, it was a great. He was a good coach. He was a good person. I don't know. He doesn't. I don't think he ever aspired to become the next Hayden Fry or anything like that. But he worked with kids, and. Who was his assistant coach when I graduated? I ran into him in Des Moines. He retired and he became a part-time employee of the state legislature. Yeah, it was Steinkamp, Curly Steinkamp,
yes.
and I forget, there was probably another assistant or two there, because that was, God forbid, they had to earn some extra money to survive on a teacher's salary in those days. Yeah, but no, Truman was I think he was an asset to the city.
Yeah. So your class graduated in 58?
58, spring of 58.
By this time, were you looking at college, thinking of maybe military or
I had pondered military, but I had my sights set on something that was unattainable. I wanted to be a pilot, and I wasn't. To begin with, I was too young. They weren't taking people for pilot training at that age, and I'm not sure I was pilot material or not. I still lust for. I shouldn't say that, but I enjoy aviation. I've ridden virtually any kind of aircraft, short of spacecraft that are offered, and I will continue to do it. But no, and college didn't seem attainable. They really didn't. I mean, we had no money. It took a lot of years to discover that you didn't really need money to go to college if you chose back then. But I'm listening to some of the candidates saying they could go to college for $50 a quarter. But $50 was a week's salary for me at KCHA.
How did you end up at KCHA? Now, growing up, you were aware of this local station, which
not really.
No, okay. You're about 9 or 10. I think.
Well, yeah, it started. Well, I was there, and it was established in what, 49?
Yes.
And I was there in less than 10 years later, and I I worked at a gas station during my senior year, and we had the radio on all the time, and I would hear it. But I never really paid much attention to it. I took a typing class in high school because I was doing poorly in one of the math programs, and they said, you better find something different or you're going to get a failing grade. So I did. And I still think that's why Bromberg hired me. I could type.
This was Vern Bromberg.
Vern Bromberg was the owner of the station back then. And no, I frequently wonder why he hired me. I had no experience. I could spell news, but and I have had a fairly good grasp of the language. I'm proud of paying attention to what my teachers told me. But I didn't have any talents. I could type. I could put together a manuscript if he wanted it, or a news piece. But that was the sum of my knowledge.
Did you respond to an advertisement for an opening?
I did. I was the gas station thing was an annual turnover with the co-op program back then, and I had to find a way to earn something. So I had an option. A neighbor very generous neighbor, worked at the Oliver, and he said, I think there's an opening that you could get in the tool room at Oliver. And then I saw the ad in the paper and wanted a news director. So I interviewed at KCHA, and they offered me the job, and then our neighbor came home and says, if you want it, you can have it. And I didn't pursue it. I don't know what it would have paid. KCHA was $52.50 a week. And I guess what determined it, the idea of a factory did not appeal to me. My dad had worked in the foundry before he died. I had no real loyalty to the Oliver. So I took the station job, took home $37.50 a week. It's about 5.5, 6 days a week. And
Vern Bromberg interviewed you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There was only 5 people on the staff back then. At the time, my predecessor had departed. I don't know if it was his choice or not, but he was gone. So there were Dick Snyder and Bob Brown and the receptionist and the owner. I became number 5. I joke, not really too facetiously, that it was WKRP of the 1950s.
Can you give some examples?
Oh my God. I can never remember. I can never tell if my hearing isn't that good. But is he Les Messman or Wes? But I had a door. I had a real office. It was the record library off the control room, and you may remember that it was a cave.
I was up there twice as a youngster.
The
layout.
Yeah, it was. We had. Vern was hands-on management, unlike WKRP. I mean, if he wanted his house painted, he'd find some recruits on staff, and we'd go out there on a Saturday afternoon when somebody else was running the board, and we'd go out there. The talent, quote unquote, unlike WKRP, the talent would spend. Bob and Dick were both salespeople half-time. They'd switch off on the console, and I was more or less 3/4 time on news, but I would sign on or sign off at times. We were a daytime station at the time, and it was just one long station, I guess is the term I like to use. But we didn't have any. Well, we didn't have any of the goofy stuff like throwing things out of helicopters or anything like that. But we had amateurism was at its peak. We enjoyed. I mean, we had fun. My elders on the staff would have fun twitting Bromberg, who had a great voice, and he did the noon news most of the time. And not infrequently, they'd run Playboy centerfolds in between his. They'd set up the news copy for him and the ad copy, and they'd throw a Playboy centerfold in there once in a while, and there'd be a brief pause while Vern explored it. Literally, they taped an iguana or some lizard to the table. Were they still working in that glass? Whatever.
I think briefly describing the layout of this station circa 1958, it was a second floor walk up at the corner of Main and Cully.
Above the
downtown,
paint store.
Above the paint store, that's right. And the control room flanked on one side by a studio.
Yeah.
Where news.
Yeah, that's two doors, one off the aisle and the hallway, and
right. And there was another room, I think, toward the other side.
toward the back. Yeah, that's my office.
And that was your
my
office,
cave.
where record, library, and such.
The
were
AP
kept.
machine.
And that is where the station was located, I think, until about 1967, and it moved to another.
To the bank, is that
the former bank?
Yeah, is that
Main
was
Street.
that before? Was that before the tornado hit?
Just before,
Okay.
fall of 1967.
Yeah. We had been gone for a long time by then.
Yeah. Well, during your brief time there, well, I should back up a bit. Had you graduated from high school already by that time?
Yeah.
Was it that summer that you started, or?
I started in September.
Okay.
And literally, almost every job I've taken for some reason has begun in September. Mm-hmm. But and as I said, I had no concept, and I don't recall any specific advice from anybody at the station about what they considered news. So I just kind of winged it. I mean, I was getting the birth reports from the hospital, and I'd contact the funeral homes to see what they had, and we'd do the wedding stuff, and I'd cover the council meetings and the school board, and I'd go up and see the police department, the sheriff, and the fire people, city or chamber of commerce, and I'd pretty standard stuff, but it taught me a lot, I think. And my knowledge of English enabled me to, put something that was understandable, if not really newsworthy. But it got by.
I'm thinking that must have been kind of an intense experience for you at the time. You're right out of school.
Yeah.
No prior experience, but you're thrust into this situation where you're interacting.
Expected to do something.
Yeah. What did you learn from that time, do you think?
I learned, I grew up. I mean, my whole sphere of acquaintances was, a half a dozen adult relatives within range, and my classmates. Again, a half a dozen of close classmates. I think at 17 and 18 back then, I hate to say this because it sounds a little arrogant, but I think the kids matured a little more quickly back then. And I came out of school with an awareness of, life was not going to be dropped in my lap. And so I had to work. I don't know. And I could say, if you want to be really extreme, I've been in the business of news all my life, literally from the time I was 9 years old until I retired when I was 59. It stretches the point just a tad, but I said earlier, I owe Bromberg-Byrne a real debt of gratitude. I don't know what I may have taken the factory job and been like so many of my contemporaries, be thrown out of work by the time you're 55, with nothing to show for it. Instead, the doors he opened for me were just phenomenal. The reason I quit is because I had a child, and my wife wasn't working anymore at that time. She worked at Garthwaite's shop there, Betty Garthwaite.
A little stationery shop.
And we weren't together. We were getting by. But by that time, maybe $40 a week take home. It wasn't enough to. So I started casting about, and I wound up conning a guy from Owine into believing, the Owine Register actually, into
the newspaper in Owine.
Yeah, believing that I was capable of covering local news. So I went there in the end of '60, and I stayed there until I moved to the Gazette in '63.
At some point between Charles City and Owine, did you feel that news is going to be in your blood, that this would be your calling?
I guess I was forced to, because I really didn't have any other anything that pulled me. I thought I was acquiring some talent at news, or I think I would have gone for anything that at that point when I moved to Owine, I think I would have gone if somebody had offered me $100 a week, which was a huge amount then. To be a store clerk or something, maybe I would have done it. But I believe in news. I truly do. I enjoyed being around people who were making it. I enjoyed knowing that. I think the sharing of news is a very valid thing. And I don't know. I did at one point consider law enforcement. I just haven't extreme. I spent a lot of time with state troopers, and I'd go out a couple times a month on overnight cruises with them, and I just admired the hell out of them. And so I gave some thought to that, but by then I had 2 kids, and so we just kept going. And so I at least I think, and I guess my future employers, subsequent employers, felt that I was progressing, doing things. My first airplane ride was Ray Henry, a former barnstormer from Charles City, whom you may remember. He was a airport manager, and I think it was the spring of '59, spring of '59. A group of people, residents of the Cowell area, flew up to Minnesota fishing, and their plane disappeared. And I don't know why he called me. I think maybe Bromberg suggested it. So he called and wanted to know if I wanted to ride up and help in the search. So I, being a clever young reporter, I grabbed my camera, which most radio people really don't need. And we were living above the trading store in downtown Charles City at the time. And I drove out the airport and I took a couple of mint candy bars because it was early Sunday morning. And Ray flew me up to Minnesota, and we got up there and flew around for a while. I guess this was when they had found the airplane in the spring. There in the fall when the foliage was gone, and we went up there. And he spotted it, and we started circling around, and I'm looking through the lens of a camera, a viewfinder of a camera, after consuming 2 mint bars, and all of a sudden everything went crazy, and I did too. And my first airplane ride, and that's the first time I ever had to clean up after myself. That was one of the rules. But anyhow, that really did trigger the fascination for flying. But it was, you learn every step of the way. I spent a lot of time with the firefighters, and Marv Carbiner was a fire chief back then, and he's a good guy. And he says, we owe. How did he say that? We owe. What you say affects us more than what we say to you, because the way you report on us, and I tend to agree. I don't buy what a lot of reporters are doing this way. My mission was never to harm somebody if they didn't deserve, if they were doing their job.
That opens up an interesting question about the role of reporters and how you progressed in this field. So many different aspects to that question, but the first more, I guess, practical question I have concerns your transition from radio into print.
Yeah.
And that is a kind of traditional yin and yang in journalism,
Yeah.
or maybe even competition, because Old Line had a very, very powerful station, KOEL. But you were more interested in news in general, but not necessarily staying in radio.
I didn't like the way I handled radio. I wasn't. I didn't like sticking a microphone in somebody else's face and doing it, and I was embarrassed sometimes in the way I did interviews. But I did like, as I say, I enjoyed the process of collecting and imparting news. And what the hell was Dick's name at KOL? Dick, the news director. Petrick, yes, yeah. He was a good friend for a lot of years. I first met him actually when I was at KCHA. And when we got to Old Line, we got together occasionally. But I am pleased, proud, I guess, that I did learn as I progressed in this thing. I learned from the time I was writing, birth announcements at KCHA, and without apologies, because I think that attracted people. I think people wanted to hear some of that information, and the weddings and the deaths and all this stuff. And I got the Old Line, and my boss there was Ernie Eschbach, and he was the managing editor of a 4 or 5 person staff. He was me and him and Mike, sports guy, and then a woman who did quote social stuff. So there was 4 of us, and a photographer. But he was a mentor in terms of what was news, and I learned, and I just expanded out, looking for different things that could be of importance and or interest by then to readers. I became kind of a snob, and I decided that most radio stations just increased their staff every time they picked up the newspaper in the morning or evening. That's what my boss in the Gazette said. And but I again, 3 years there was a great learning opportunity, and it opened the door down here when our family was such that the whole wine wasn't really supporting me.
Financially, I mean.
Financially, yeah. And I could have worked there. I enjoyed the people I worked with. Most happened to be locals, and
well, this is the dilemma, especially for young aspiring reporters or newspaper writers or broadcasters. Small markets just don't pay very well.
They don't pay well, no. And I came to the Gazette. I think I had reached I know I was over the $100, and I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. The job was a whole lot more demanding, and but I was very fortunate. Again, I got hired by a person who, I don't know whether he saw something in me or just took pity on a poor slob with 3 kids, but he worked the hell out of us. I mean, he expected a lot, and he taught. Jack Hillian, H-J-L-N, and the guys were, if you did something wrong, you heard about it, and you didn't do it again. He told me he taught me. At Old we'd go to a city council meeting and we'd write one long story with 12 items in it. First time I did that in Old Jack says, "What the hell are you writing for?" And so every time thereafter was a separate item on each particular topic.
Separate stories.
You don't try to pick and choose which has greater importance. So, yeah, it was a good experience, and I evolved from there. I was at City Hall for 63 to 65 or 6. Then I moved off.
Canny was mayor at that time?
Don was mayor. Well,
Okay.
Bob Johnson.
That
was mayor when I started. And then Frank Bosch was mayor. And then, I don't know, I don't think Donnie Gardner was ever mayor, but Canny came in at that point. Mm-hmm. And by then I had left city government. I was a state editor at the paper. And then I left for that. I became it was through my boss at that time, John Robertson. He wanted to do some upgrading of the Gazette's product, and he created a lifestyle section, which involved and I asked him what the hell I'd done wrong when he asked me to run it, because it was the society section and all that stuff. But he said, "I want you to do something besides. I want you to get it so the guys are going to pick up." So we did that for a couple of years, and then I did. In '79, Frank and our political guy, retired, and I stepped in, and I finished my career 21 years later with covering national politics. So modesty says I covered it. Pride says I was able to. So yeah, it was from where I had started, 42 years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody had ever said that back in '58, I'd laughed my head off. Mm-hmm. And I left not because I had any prescience about what it was going to become, but it has become what I was afraid it would be. This thing here is an enemy. That's an enemy. You know,
We're pointing to
the computer and the phone and the
smartphone
and the television set. And
I've heard the expression long ago, long before the personal devices came out, but in the 1970s, just as I was entering journalism school in college, I heard the expression, the tools of ignorance.
Yeah, and amen. Did you go to Iowa?
I went to Iowa State for 2 years, and then I transferred to Wisconsin.
Okay, you
I
were
got my
Dupree
JD
went to
there.
Iowa State. Mike Dupree, you know of him at least. I'm.
That came from another name you, I'm sure, remember, Jim Flansburgh. From
Oh yeah,
Des Moines
Jim is a good
Register.
friend.
He, that's where I learned that remark. I was riding in an elevator with him at one time when my dad was in the legislature. I was visiting Des Moines that day.
Who worked at the legislature?
My father was in the legislature toward the late
Well, yeah, I guess
1960s.
that was before me.
And he and Flansburgh became friends, but that was the remark I heard because there was a local TV guy looking all this equipment on and off the elevator, and Flansburgh just looked at him and shook his head.
Jim was, and until you got to know him, he was an intimidating guy.
Oh yeah.
But after you got to know him, he was a delightful person. But no, we spent this last week in Spain with my son and his kids and one wife and all that stuff. But anyhow, during a wine-induced conversation, we started talking, and Doug is 55, I guess. Yeah, 55. And his kids are, one's Air Force Academy graduate, another works for the Cleveland Indians, and his daughter's studying abroad. She's a teenager. And we started talking about, I don't know what motivated me, but I said, how much do you know about your government? And I don't know. Yeah, we see the TV. That you don't know diddly. Okay, so we progressed on that, and I said, the rest of your lives, you got only yourselves to blame if you don't learn, if you don't, and the newspaper ain't going to be around to do it. And that really does concern me not for my kids so much, but for my grandkids and great-grandkids. The kids, are smart enough to understand where we're going, but I don't know what they're going to do without newspapers. We talked about the low-income element in the small-town papers. I have a good friend, coworker, who grew up in Bellevue. He's 2 years older than me, retired a year or two ahead of me, whatever. He still subscribes to the Bellevue paper, and we winter together, and he has it sent to him, and I'm so impressed with that paper, and I've seen some other small town weeklies, bi-weeklies, and they are doing what I thought was my mission 40, 50 years ago. They're giving people information that is useful to them or desirable, useful. When anybody, broadcast or print, says we're giving people the information they need to know, well, that's arrogant. That's you're making your decision. I spent a career giving people something I thought could be interesting, important to them. But saying you need to know, you have to know them, well, bull. So I don't know. I'm glad I was in the business. I retired in 2000 because I just didn't like the way it was going. And I'd been to 9 national conventions. I didn't want to go to another one. I was being our process of reporting news had become a blend of broadcast and print. My last convention in, 96, I guess, I was out in San Francisco. And I was required before I went to bed each night, I was required to call back and record a 8-10 minute reevaluation or assessment recap of the day's activities. How the hell can you put 16 hours of, and that kind of bothered me, and I was not afraid of the microphone at that time. But it just, so what do you leave out? I mean, at least with a newspaper you can put in some minutia that may be beneficial. And I had one coworker, one other, I guess, was basically in the same boat I was in. He started out as a broadcast guy, only he was a disc jockey, a rock and roll type thing, and he still is, but he got to be a fairly accomplished reporter. So it's.
What would you say to young people today, by young meaning younger than, millennials or younger, people who are 30 and under today, in being good citizens? What would you have to offer them?
Having covered every level of politics, I think it's important for everybody to be aware of what politics is and can do for anybody's life. I don't believe, I fear that the print medium is not going to be around for, I don't know, I hope it's around before I leave, or when I leave, but I don't think anybody is really promoting its retention, and that's going to be strictly an economic thing, which leaves, I'm told by grandkids that, we can get what we need online. Well, you can, but do you? It's not enough to say we can get it. Well, do you bother? Do you understand what it means? And that's the discussion I had with my grandkids.
That's a very good, very important distinction.
Yeah. You can get the market reports on this, or you can get, by God, I was looking at something, and I don't know what app it was, but there was a thing telling me how to build an automatic. You could get instructions for building an automatic rifle. And knowing that I used to be an outdoor columnist, by the way, amongst other things. Knowing the legal restrictions on automatic weapons, I called my successor at the Gazette, and I said, "Why don't you call the Attorney General and see if there's anything that maybe that's something that could be damaging." Well, I never heard anything more about it, but I just don't think I think there's way too much adverse information and not enough that people will be attracted to than there is essential information that they just say they can't control because they don't believe the government is affected by a single vote. And I don't know what the hell you can tell them. For the 20 years I was doing politics, from the election in '80 until I retired in 2000. the 96 was my last year of doing it, but we would put out a 30 to 40 page tab every 4-year election cycle. And it covered legislative, it'd cover state government, all levels of state government. It would call the legal system, it'd cover congressional and presidential, and we'd have profiles. First person, I mean, I wrote on 20-some presidential candidates and 80 in the Democratic side. And believe it or not, I mean, we'd put it out a week or so before the election. And I swear to God that not an election would go by that people wouldn't call and say, you know, within that subsequent time period, when are you going to put something in about these candidates? I don't know what you can do. Mm-hmm. The water to, or the horse to water, I guess.
Well, the absence of that kind of forum these days creates a very real deficit in civics.
Well, what's killing the newspaper? I mean, what a newspaper, the Gazette is still a respectable exception to what's been happening. Fortunately, part of it is, or unfortunately maybe, part of it is because they diversified and they've got a revenue source in commercial printing. We go to Alabama, the Mobile Press Register was at one point a pretty respectable newspaper. 3 days a week down. If you don't care about SEC sports, there's not a whole, or the Mardi Gras period. Detroit Free Press, I had a kid living up there. It's outstanding newspaper at one point. It's a shadow now. Dayton Daily News, ditto. The places I go. I don't know where we go. I know where I was going though. Again, back to the electronic thing. Mm-hmm. I refuse to buy anything online. I tell my kids, you grew up with revenue, thanks to revenue from buying at your local merchants. Well, it's quicker. Well, that doesn't help when they got to pay their taxes or pay my paycheck. Or
that's right.
And if they're not getting local merchants to advertise, and you know we're killing. You know, you go back to Charles City, and you having grown up there. Now tell me you never heard somebody say, "Well, we couldn't get it in Charles City, so we drove to Mason City to buy it." That's a lie. That's a canard. Mm-hmm. If you would have wanted it bad enough, you would gone into Spurgeon's and told the guy, "I want this kind of a coat," and he would have had it, or whomever. But no, you'd rather drive over there and go to Sam Ray's or whatever.
There was an electrical contractor, and maybe you remember Ken Bloom.
Yeah.
Had a store on Main Street, and their slogan was, "If we don't have it, we'll order it for you."
Yes.
And that was their tagline for many years in their radio advertising. But that was the ethic that these local merchants had.
And I don't know what really stimulated that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I know there was an element of it when we lived there in 58, 50, 60. I grew up there. But I think most people were very comfortable going to Good Arts or Trowbridge's or whatever for their food, and the trading store or whatever for the other stuff, and But Goodyear was there on north end. There was the one down in the south end next to Legals. There was a hardware store. Mm-hmm. We used to go in there. Hell, 2 theaters. That was a thriving community back then.
Yeah.
And it's not all tornado. I mean, the opportunity. the opportunity disappeared because I think the confidence in the community, the loyalty went someplace else.
It's complex. I think
you're
right. There are a number.
My psychology degree is long since expired.
but you're onto something though when you talk about how this has really taken its toll on rural communities in the last 30 to 40 years with a number of factors coming into play. There is a book you may find interesting, if not depressing. I recall reading a couple of years ago, and it's entitled Hollowing Out the Middle. And it is specifically concerning rural Midwestern communities that have lost ground, either their industrial base or their commercial base. The things.
Would you like another?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the author, I think, made a very good attempt at trying to trace the origins of a number of factors that have contributed to the state of these communities today. And I am fascinated by not only your recollection, but also your observation of the landscape today.
When we left Charles City, when we grew up, my wife's family farmed and rented farms and moved to town. My father-in-law was an ASC bin site supervisor, and when we lived up there, I think the average farm in Floyd County was probably 160, maybe 120
acres.
And they were self-sufficient pretty much. Just before we left, I think I do recall it was in the summer or fall of '60, and I can't remember the guy's name. I can if I heard it. I heard of the first 1,000-acre farm, Julius Huxell. The first 1,000-acre farm, I think, in Floyd County. Now that consumed 5 farms. And that meant 4 other families or 5 families no longer had a livelihood. What'd they do? They went to the Oliver Woods belly. They went belly up because the farmer didn't need, there wasn't as great a demand for their equipment. I mean, they bought 2 large ones instead of 5 small ones. We're our own worst enemy on a lot of this stuff. And now what, you ever watch, there's a network, RFD.
Oh, okay.
And I enjoy watching it periodically because, mainly because there's nothing else on television. But I watched a thing a few weeks ago on it. It had a segment on the auction of pre-owned cultivation
implements or farm
implements, the harvesting equipment.
Yeah.
They're running $600,000-$700,000 a piece, and they had a segment on their multiple thousands of acres of farms, and they'll use one for 2 or 3 years. And then they had an auction where these almost new harvesters, and they're still selling for $400,000 and $500,000. I don't know how. That is not your average crop farmer. I mean, it's a corporation.
The whole scale of the economy has changed so much.
And I think I don't know. Nobody is going to listen to. You don't want to hear my harangue on the broadcast media. I have no respect for it. I think half of the problems we have in and around Washington right now are a direct result of public distrust or dislike for the media. And if the media doesn't like you. Well, we do, because they're our enemy. They're a bigger enemy. I think that's why we got Trump in office. That's a significant part of it. I truly believe it. And
but also, too, that's an important point. The concentration of media ownership changed so much. The mom and pop type station KCHA in 1958,
KOL, I don't know what it's like
or
anymore.
whatever the station may be. Today, the Charles City station is owned by a local company based in Forest City, and they have a very strong emphasis now on local programming. I can't help but think that they're really the exception that proves the rule, because so much of radio now, terrestrial radio now, is satellite.
When I was in it, KOL was, KWMT in Fort Dodge. They were stars. And I don't include KXEL. I think that was a glitch someplace. I did apply for a job there one time as a copywriter, but I don't think I'd have been happy. But I do listen. Well, oddly enough, and I don't know whether it's all in Iowa, but when we are on the road, a lot of times, I do not like the Rush Limbaughs of the world. I don't like talk radio anymore. I would enjoy hearing local news from wherever down in southern Missouri over hearing another banality from those people. And you can get some pretty decent ones. They'll talk about their garden shows or whatever, and they're still doing it. It's there. Apparently there's a degree of support for it. Some people are willing to support that by patronizing locals, but we aren't. I mean, we the Gazette, the print types are heading out the window. I don't know how long the Register's going to hang on. When we grew up, that was the center of the media universe in Iowa.
The newspaper Iowa depends
Yes, yeah. God, how I hated that term.
Didn't speak or acknowledge Sioux City Journal or Cedar Rapids Gazette.
When we went, our competitiveness with the Register really grew exponentially when we became a morning newspaper.
About what year was that?
Oh gosh,
70s?
No, it's in the 80s, I believe. 82. I don't know. It's been a long time. But it had to be more closer to the middle of the decade, because I would go to Des Moines, and basically if anything happened after 1 o'clock, I was done. I mean, I still had to go to the meetings, afternoon and evening, but nothing could be put in the paper until 24 hours later, which you're not competitive then. And our presence became a lot stronger when we could go face to face with the Register, and that's about the time they lost the Trib.
Yeah.
And
the Tribune was the evening
yeah,
paper.
I would deliver that when I was delivering the Register in Charles City. There were always a handful of people who wanted God knows why. Maybe they're patriots from Des Moines or something, but there was never, I look at it and wonder why. But
the paper with the pictures.
Yeah, really.
Was their slogan. But definitely a different vibe, a different look and feel to that paper compared with the Register.
We were in Germany last week, and there's well, I sense there is, because I see more of them around. There's a greater attraction to the print media there than we have. It's well, in fact, overnight we were in Manitoba, or the Montreal airport, and I found 3 different papers.
Metropolitan papers in Montreal?
Or Thunder Bay, Ontario, for cripe's sakes. It's
okay.
a couple hundred, well, maybe not that far, but 100 miles away from.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if travelers brought their local down and to read while they waited for the plane, but they are there. And I looked through them, and the Thunder Bay, I've been there. It's not a metropolitan area, but it had local information in it. The Montreal and Toronto papers are big city papers, but I think Canadians, I've got friends in London, and they subscribe to their paper. I think they're more aware, or more faithful.
I wonder if it must be a cultural thing, differences among countries that regard these.
Well, it's a good question.
Media. It's
an outstanding question,
but impossible to answer. But there may be some variation in how
some PhD ought to pursue that. Get a little travel money and wander around, and I remember we do some riverboat travel, have done some, and it used to intrigue me when you were en route, especially the Asian folks. They'd have these big papers, just like our double sheets were, the big wide. We've chopped them down to letterheads, or stationary size. But they're these big papers, and there are a lot of stuff in them, and they're reading them right along. But we don't. They're giving away Wall Street Journal at the hotel we stayed in Toronto. I don't see much in the Wall Street Journal that I want to read. But I'm not a business person. The hotel probably has a large traveling professional group.
Very specific clientele,
Yeah,
probably for
true.
that type
Yeah,
of
and
readership. Is there any additional ground you'd like to cover before we close out? Glad we have this discussion about the state of journalism. I think it's a very critical matter.
I never tell people I was a journalist, because I thought a journalist is, I don't know. I always thought it was a little affectatious. I'm a reporter, and I was proud of being a reporter. I was proud of the business, and I don't know, anything that strikes me as. I'm glad you're doing this, by the by, because I think it covers a real span of ideas and thoughts, and the reality of the way things were and never can be. It's like our government. It's never going to be the way it was, and if both could be fixed, we'd be. Jim Leach was always, we need to overhaul government, and I think.
Well, in the time that you've witnessed in your life and professionally, from about 1958 forward, 42 years and beyond, is pretty remarkable span of time and at a remarkable juncture, I think.
My memories of newspaper are, as I say, I started, I think, delivering the press when I was about 9. But I do remember when the press came out in 1945. I remember the headline on VE Day and VJ Day and all that stuff. The sensational things. I don't remember seeing the paper lying around, but I do remember because with a brother overseas and my family got it. I think the press had a. I want to remember, but you got to remember this is 75 years ago. I want to think it was a red, about a 90-point type. VJ Day, when Japan surrendered. Mm-hmm. So, it was the mode of communication. Radio was an emerging medium then. Yes. But I still think the print was the go-to.
It absolutely was. Ken, I appreciate so much your time.
Well, I'm proud to do it. I'm grateful for you asking. I'm glad I saw that thing on the Charles City thing. In fact, I texted Jim, my nephew, and he said he had seen your stuff on. You might be from Charles City if. Okay. In fact, I think I got connected with my brother-in-law, Ken Kingsfield. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of just an aside when I responded to you, but I'm glad you reacted because we're losing something, and
sadly we are.
I have good ties with the. Not so much anymore because I've been gone. I retired 20 years ago almost, and the J School was a different place back then. But I spent a lot of nice time with some classes. Lyle would have me. He was doing I don't think he was. What's the term? When you're not faculty, but you're
adjunct.
Adjunct. He was doing some adjunct work there, and
sure.
And having spent a lot of years in politics, I guess they thought I had expertise, which I think that's overrated too. So.
Thank you so much again.
Well, thank you for coming in, David.
And if you have additional comments you would like to make later, let me know. And
yeah. Okay. Well, I've got your number here. I wish I had more clarity on them. I've got in my laptop in my laptop. I probably got 100 interviews with. Jack Kemp and Biden and.
Have you considered donating your papers or computer files to the archives?
I didn't keep many when we moved into town a year and a half ago, and as we were preparing, I had preserved a box of reporter pads. Mm-hmm. And we just decided. I think I kept 4 or 5 of them, and I burned. Probably a couple hundred. Illegible probably even to me. I had the Faulkner shorthand method. Are you familiar with that? You just leave out all the vowels.
There you go.
And throw a line under it. And it worked pretty well. I wish I had taken shorthand when I was in high school. But if there is, I don't have all that much. I was really lucky though. I traveled because of my work. I traveled mostly in Central Asia. I was in Kazakhstan and China and Mongolia and Slovenia and where else did I go?
In the course of your work with the Gazette?
Yeah, we got in. Well, Bob Anderson was had this something in Newton, and he got into a journalism exchange thing, and he brought some Mongolians up here to spend some time with us at the Gazette, and I got invited with him and Don Smith, former, and we spent, well, God, was it 92? Maybe before that. But we spent 8 days in Beijing and then about 8 days in Ulaanbaatar and thereabouts.
What an experience.
Yeah, great experience. And dealing with the national journalism and, you know, if, I don't know how to say it really. If people in this country were half as zealous about the media as the people in some of those countries, the masses, quote unquote, I mean, there'd be no issue, and it was refreshing, literally, to see.
Just seeing the engagement.
Well, and they were these little hip pocket newspapers would spring up because somebody had a voice, had something that the government wouldn't put in or allow in its publication, so they'd come out, and and it was just it's probably the way it was here in the 19th century. I mean, hell, how many papers did Cedar Rapids have? Once upon a time, there were 5 or 6.
And in I shouldn't say foreign necessarily, but native languages.
Yeah,
that were.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a Czech.
Charles City had a German language newspaper.
I didn't know that.
Before 1915. But,
I didn't know that.
And that was not unusual. Communities.
Well, all the immigration would naturally bring some over, but
yeah, Cedar Rapids had a very large landscape.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you.
Yeah.
And we will be keeping in touch.